You're listening to Short Inspirations from Ralph. Being Real, Part 3. We finished the last episode with defining what being real was. And it's being you, it's being authentic. It's being a person with the mask off. And we talked about if you really want to love another person, you must know really who they are. Otherwise, you can be in a situation where you just have to make up or guess who that person is, and it doesn't work. So what can we say is the opposite of being real, or being authentic, or being genuine? It's this thing called hypocrisy. And Jesus himself said, don't be like the hypocrites. He actually used that word. Everyone at that time would have known what Jesus was talking about, because when he used that term hypocrite, he was using a very vivid word that everyone in the culture knew. The word came from the theatre, and it would describe an actor who wore a mask to play a part, pretending to be someone or something that was a false portrayal of who they really were. It's a stage player, an actor under an assumed character. A hypocrite, that's where the word comes from. So authenticity means that there is a consistency between what is on the inside and what others see on the outside. You don't pretend to be spiritual with a small group that you might be in, and then be devious and deceitful in your business. You don't pretend to be beautiful and holy and pure in your speech in one setting, but continually off colour and even foul in another. We don't tell our kids to turn off certain television programs or get away from screens with certain things going on, and then on our own watch our own CD programs after they've gone to bed. I recently mentioned that as a church leader and bringing up 4 children in our home, then what I said and what I did really had to match up as much as possible. The greater the distance between those two things, and that would have introduced hypocrisy into our home, which was very, very damaging. But it can be a very big temptation to all of us. So hypocrisy being the opposite to authenticity means that we get good at wearing masks. As we said, it can become a way of life to the point that it becomes normal for us. I read about one young lady who was a sergeant in the army, and she wrote a letter to her mother from a camp where they had to endure very harsh conditions. She said, "Mum, I've met someone here that I'd like to know better, but we're not allowed to wear makeup, so he has no idea about what I really look like." Jesus taught that in a culture where wearing masks, spiritually speaking, was not only the norm, but it was actually promoted by the religious leaders of the day. They taught that the proof of your spirituality was when people see you give your offerings, when people hear you say your prayers, and when they look at you and they know that you're fasting. So they know you're a spiritually disciplined person. So there are 2 great tests that we can give ourselves. One is the audience test, and the other is the secrecy test. The audience test is the question, who am I doing this for? Great question. The secrecy test says this: would I do the same thing if nobody was looking? And Jesus said not to do your acts of righteousness in front of others, to be seen by them. And if you do, you will have no reward from your Father in heaven. But then you'll get a reward from your Father if you do it in secret. Jesus talked in John 12 about those who love the praise of men rather than the praise of God. That's the audience test. And how do we do on this? Do we do it for others or for an audience of one? 1 Corinthians 4:5 says, when the Lord comes, he will bring our deepest secrets to light and will reveal our private motives. Wow. The great thing about children is that they have no pretense. They say things as they really are. And also, they haven't learned to manage their faces. Whether it's McDonald's or Mr. Whippy, or they have to eat spinach, or there's a monster under their bed, their faces will tell you what's in their hearts. And when we get older, we learn to manage our faces. We teach our faces to conceal and guard. We train them to look confident when our hearts are scared, to look pious when our hearts are wild with temptation or guilt. We often admire people who have learned to manage their faces. But that's not what people are drawn to. We'll talk about that in the next episode. God bless you.